all our family has, I think, a special feeling for this land, and they care about it, and they'll do things not because they get paid a wage or not because it's a profitable thing to do or whatever, but they care for it because they care about it. And the people that have gone before us have showed us how to care about it, and so they deserve a lot of the credit too. I'm Muriel Bien, son of Ole and Ingeborg, who actually homesteaded on the very spot I'm sitting on right now in 1888. And this is on the top of the Prairie Coteau, the northern tip. Basically, you can see it on the weather maps and everything, how it comes to an arrowhead up there. It is unique for the reason that our family grew up here, but it's also unique in that it has a lot of wetlands, a lot of glacial deposits and rock and soil. And, you know, where I'm sitting right now, where my grandfather had his dugout, there was at one time maybe several hundred feet of ice above us, and below us I know there's at least several hundred feet of glacial deposits. So I think it is a unique area, and as a result it's got unique plants, unique animals. The whole ecosystem is somewhat unique to the rest of the area. The terrain is divided as it comes up through here. You were on Pleasant Peak this morning. The drop in elevation from Pleasant Peak to Havana, North Dakota, which is right on the border, 7 miles as the crow flies, is about 1,100 feet in drop. So the change in elevation can be pretty great here.
There's not another place I would rather go than Pleasant Peak. I mean, you look at the landscape around Pleasant Peak, all those wetlands, all those grasslands. It's an amazing ranch. And to have one owner try to, to preserve it, it's just incredible.
I think the beauty of the Bien Ranch is there's a lot of conservation stories that are centered on having to fix things. You don't have to fix what you never broke. The Bien family for a few generations now has had the foresight to say, if we don't break it, we don't have to fix it.
I think of Neil as probably one of the best mentors in the ranching world, and I might be a little biased, but just for example, this spring we were calving, and we calved later, but even this spring was just muddy, raining, snowing still in May, and I was kind of getting frustrated, and he would just kind of have like a calm pace about it, and just obviously I'd still be working all the time, but he'd just kind of tell you like, take her easy, like getting worked up about it's not gonna make things any better. He always said, if you don't have time to do things right the first time, how are you gonna have time to come back and do it again? So he was just always that calming sense.
You can't speak of Neil without speaking of Muriel, and I think sometimes we forget that. Everything that he's been able to accomplish outside is because of their teamwork on the inside, and their stewardship of their community, their work in their church, their work and their volunteerism. What that does, I believe, is it sets a sense of responsibility in people like Nate and Nate's fiancée, Katie. They will be sustainable, they will be resilient, they will be regenerative because they understand what those things mean. It's not about a system, it's about a philosophy.
He has such a knowledge of how like grasslands are going to react to like a grazing period. Like this summer he hasn't really been able to get out into the pastures as much, and they've been out there, and he can just even tell from looking out off the road in his pickup, like, oh, that pasture's looking like it's getting a little down out there, and I'm like, yeah, well, it is. And so then it's just amazing to me, his wealth of knowledge. I always tell people he's probably forgotten more about ranching and cattle than most people will ever know.
So I was part of nominating Neil for the Leopold Award. Here's a guy that quotes Aldo Leopold. his life has been dedicated to conservation on the land. How do you not nominate somebody at that caliber for the award? It's why the award began.
The thing about Neil is he's always joking about his health. And he's always so appreciative of just being here, you know. So Neil was hospitalized for 8 days and in the hospital, not knowing if he'd even be able to participate in this shoot. He's always wanting to educate. He's just an educator, he's a helper, and he wanted us to have no doubt of where the core essence of the Bien Ranch comes from. And so he wrote this down for us, and if nothing else, this should be shared with his family as to the core of management of a ranch. And it doesn't start with the cattle, and it doesn't even start with the grass, but it starts below ground. And here's what Neil has to say. Native grasses and forbs are the foundation of a grazing system. The 75 pounds of manure and urine produced each day per cow is a big part of cycling nutrients throughout the system, feeding the soil biology, and keeping it vibrant. At the same time, we're building soils and root systems that can hold water and transport nutrients. Grazing animals apply manure with little soil disturbance and disperse it broadly, making it readily available to be cycled by soil biology. Thus, we're always thinking in terms of plant life, microbes, and soil biology, and cycling manure and growing healthy, well-performing livestock. That mentality, you know, living that daily reminder of your obligation as a steward to the land becomes so ingrained, it becomes a lifestyle, and a happy one at that.
As far as the legacy, I'm pretty sure that 50 years you talked about, there won't be anybody remember or really even care who I was. But I will have some ancestors here, and you know, they'll probably still have that picture of the prairie preservationist. And maybe they'll tell some of the stories that I've told about what happened and how it happened and why it happened and how those people started here and what their dreams were. And maybe they'll tell about some of the dreams that I had. And then we'll know at that time if some of them have come true or not. So I am proud that I have somebody that's going to be here that can maybe do some of those things. You know, like I said, I've got 6 grandchildren, no great-grandchildren yet, and probably who knows if I'll ever even see any. But that doesn't mean they might not play a role in this as well. Attitude is such a big part of this. You know, that's one of the things I've always said you can control. And I saw it on the sign in the cancer center with my wife. This famous coach said, there's 2 things in life you can control. One is your effort, and the other is your attitude. And other people don't have to influence them. You're the sole responsibility of the effort that you put forth. And you're the sole responsibility for the attitude that you have. That would be my legacy. The thing I'm most proud of is that I have people coming after me that I think have better qualities than I had and some of the same dreams and wishes that I've had. So.